Tim, have I ever talked to you about my lucky socks?
Well, you've told me a lot about your socks, actually, Kurt, maybe more than I care to admit that we've talked about your socks.
I do talk about socks. I have over the years, yes.
Yeah, over the years. I'm not sure if you've actually brought up your lucky socks, though.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about them. So they're not just generally lucky socks. I don't just wear them ad hoc anytime.
Okay.
They're specific lucky socks, and they're specific for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, yeah, the national basketball team in Minneapolis, where you live.
Yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves, based in Minnesota here.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I got this pair of really cool Timberwolves socks for Christmas this past year from my favorite son. Yeah.
Oh, good job, Quinn. Way to go.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and here's why they're lucky, or at least I think they're lucky, right? So I got them for Christmas, and then I wore them to the next game that we had with them. Then I'm a season ticket holder, so I go to the games often. I went to a game, wore the socks. Guess what? Timberwolves won.
Oh, yes. Okay, fantastic. You wear the socks, they win. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Love that.
So I wore them again to a different game.
Yep.
Guess what, Tim?
Drum roll.
They won again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But then
something else happened.
To wear them.
Oh no.
I think I was too busy. I think I had to come right from work or whatever. I didn't realize that there was a game that night, and I didn't put them on, and just had to run out the door to get there. Didn't have my lucky Timberwolves socks on. And then guess what happened?
Well, they lost, right?
They did. They lost. So I am, I need to wear them to every game now.
So are you telling me that every time that they won, every time you wore them, they won, right? So that is
hell
definitely...
no. Hell no.
Oh.
No,
wait a minute.
The Sox probably have a success rate of about 50%. So, subsequent after that, I wore them again and they lost, and then I didn't wear them and they won. But but it's not that. It's the important part is if I don't wear them, I get this feeling, this like I'm letting the team down. I get this antsy part. I'm not doing my part, even though, Tim, I know that me wearing my lucky Timberwolves socks or my Timberwolves shirt or whatever it would be has absolutely no bearing on how the Timberwolves do on the court.
Okay.
I know that. I know that rationally up here.
Yeah.
But still, I get that feeling.
I love that you teased out the difference between how it makes you feel and how the team performs. And kudos to you for using the scientific method to determine that the Sox actually have no bearing on the final score.
Well, I knew that going into it, but still, it's one of those really crazy things. There is the point is there is no scientific correlation. It's about how I feel about the games when I do or don't wear them. So why do I still feel like they're my lucky socks? I call them my lucky socks. And I feel like I need to wear them, even though I know there is no shred of evidence that they have any influence. But why do I do that? Why do I cling? Why do any of us cling to the rituals, the rally caps, the blowing on the dice, any of those superstition things, those crazy routines that we have? And yes, even lucky socks as fans. Why do we do that? Why does it matter when we know deep down at some level that it doesn't impact the game in any way?
I think that's a topic we should groove on. That why do we hold on to superstitions, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I agree here. So what's going on, Tim? What do you think? What are we doing?
Well, I use the term superstitious because the very first thing that I think we need to address is superstitious conditioning. This comes way back from B.F. Skinner with the pigeons. The pigeons are clicking around in the space, and then they happen to peck on a lever, and they get a reward. And the pigeons feel like, oh, if I click on this lever, then I get food. If I do this thing, I'm going to get this reward. And it feels like they caused it. whether or not there was actually a connection between the click and the reward. They felt like, and this is how human beings feel. We feel like if I do that enough, if I wear those damn socks, those are my lucky socks. If I wear them enough, it will help the team. That
Yeah.
that causal relationship is a natural inclination of the human condition.
So B.F. Skinner, for those of most of you should know who B.F. Skinner is, famous behaviorist. But the idea that there is this conditioning process, and he talks about, you know, driven behavior, this learned behavior that we have, and that's how
Mhm.
behavior is formed. And so what he's saying is this superstitious conditioning is because I wore those socks at the beginning and they won, and then I happened to have another just by chance wore them and they won again, and then I wore them and they, or I didn't wear them and they lost, or that conditioned me to this feeling. And now, even though I knew rationally in my head there was this conditioning that happened, and I think that's a really important part.
Yeah, and superstitions can also flow from rules. This idea, and this gets passed down culturally. Like, don't walk under a ladder, or if a black cat crosses your path, or when you do something bad, you have to throw salt over your shoulder or something. I mean, these are all cultural kinds of things that we learn to try to explain correlations that aren't really causal,
Well,
basically.
and yeah, and one of the interesting pieces too is that while I the socks I told, like the first couple pieces, there was there was a correlation. It was spurious, but it was still a correlation to winning or losing. That it's actually can be even more powerful with intermittent rewards. This idea, we know that from all the incentive work that we've done. We know that that's why the roulette wheel or the poker, games work really well, because there's an intermittent reward associated with that actually drives more dopamine release in our brain, and
Right,
a variety
right.
of different pieces of this. So there is that aspect that even though I see that it it loses sometimes and wins sometimes, that might actually be reinforcing
Right, right.
my my angst around this, the feeling that I have, and that is
Yeah.
just really, really kind of crazy when you think about it.
So the underlying problem with this is that we mistake correlation with causation. Like, just because shark attacks go up in the same curve as ice cream sales doesn't mean that ice cream sales cause shark attacks. So,
There you go.
okay, what
So
else?
so there's also this aspect of illusion of control. I know that the socks don't help. Like, I know my socks aren't influencing Anthony Edwards' jump shot, right? But I feel like better with them on, a little less helpless. Like I'm somehow doing that, right?
Yeah, but we love that. We love that sense of certainty. Like, basketball is chaos. Like, if you wear your socks, you're actually helping to create a little pocket of order.
Well, and I have that control. So Ellen Langer, kind of coined this term, this illusion of control,
Yeah.
back in 1975, and I loved the way that they did this experiment. The experiment was, hey, they had participants bet, right, on a roll of a dice, and participants who got to roll the dice themselves bet more, as if they, by having that control of the dice, they somehow affected the outcome, when we know that's not true. It's a random throw. Whether if you throw them or I throw them, it doesn't matter. It's all about this illusion of control. And the fact that wearing my socks is some sort of control piece for me. It's
Mhm.
something I can do. And even though I know rationally that it doesn't impact it, it's like I feel like, what if they lose and I don't wear my socks? I feel bad. I feel like,
Well,
what did I just cause? You know?
well, because it gives you a sense of agency. Like, at
Yes.
least you're doing something, right? Like, I'm supporting the team in this way, and like you said, you felt a certain anxiousness when you forgot. Like, when
Yeah.
you forgot to wear the socks, there was a little bit of anxiety with that. Like, I'm not supporting the team. I'm not doing what I can. I'm not doing my part. Even
And what's
you
it's interesting because and I consider myself hopefully a rational, smart person. And I will tell you this: there was one time it's like I didn't do any of the normal, like where I usually wear like a Timberwolves, some sort of Timberwolves shirt,
hmm
t-shirt, and then
hmm
I have a hat sometimes, and I wear that, and all of those things, right? And I remember very vividly one time I didn't have any of that, and I went to the game, and they still won, and it was this feeling like, oh, they won, not they won besides the fact that I didn't do this, like like, oh, they had to work extra hard
Right.
today because I didn't help out with my stuff.
Well,
So
because we humans are reason seeking machines, right? So
yes,
there's got to be a reason that they won today. And so I'm going to have to put that story together in my head, just like the Ellen Langer's dice rolling experiment.
yeah.
I'm going to be more effective when I do it, when I roll that dice.
Well,
It's worth the bet.
and it's this is part of this personal involvement, right? So I think there's another study, 2014 from Yarredo and Matute and Vadilo. I probably just totally scanned that, but they basically, like, we overestimate the influence that our behavior has in uncontrollable outcomes, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is that if we're part of it, that personal involvement, and so for me, it's my personal involvement in putting the socks on,
Right.
and that confounds with the probability of whatever that is. So it's really it's an interesting piece. And the fact of the matter is that that illusion of control makes me feel good, right? It gives some aspect of I'm part of this team, I'm part of this community, which gets to the next part of this, which is uh, uh, there's an aspect of social identity that
Yeah.
I am doing my part, and the other people around me are doing my part, and I'm signaling to them by wearing those socks. I'm
Yeah.
doing all of this, right? So I think that's a really important piece too.
You're showing that you're not just somebody going to the game, you're in group.
Yes.
Right, that you belong there because you're demonstrating on this very outward basis of what I'm wearing, the clothes that demonstrate that I'm in group, I'm part of the inner circle, right? And this is important, this is a really important thing. I mean, it even like it there's tons of work. I think Juan and Branscombe from 1993 found that stronger fan identification leads to greater emotional investment. And it totally makes sense, right? That engaging in these behaviors that reinforce group belonging, even if it appears irrational, is really satisfying to us.
Yeah. Hey, Groovers, we want to take a moment away from our conversation to thank you for listening to Behavioral Grooves. If you enjoy the conversations we're having and want to help us keep the groove going, here are a few simple ways that you can support the show.
First off, subscribing to our Substack is a great way to stay connected with us between episodes. The weekly newsletter provides you with cool insights that are beyond the episodes, and they get delivered straight to your inbox.
And if you haven't already, leaving a review or a rating of the podcast on a platform like Apple or Spotify or YouTube helps other curious minds discover us. And there's two great things about that. One, it gives us a boost, and two, it costs nothing.
And it only takes a second, but it makes a huge difference for us. Plus, we love hearing from you, so don't be shy. Leave us a review or give us a quick thumbs up.
We're coming up on 500 episodes, and we're doing this because we love the conversations we have with our guests.
Yeah, we also want to do it because we love bringing you insightful, behavior-changing content every week, and we hope that some of those insights will help you find your groove.
It's interesting because I'm going to the game, I'm wearing my jersey, my socks, my whatever else it is. The guy next to me has his Timberwolves hat on. That other person down there has their jersey on, and then there's that other person that is just dressed in street clothes.
That's
And
me. That's me,
yeah, and,
actually.
and I'm
Yeah.
like going, I know these other people. Yeah, they're part of my tribe, right? I'm part of their tribe. We're part of the Timberwolves tribe, and the team and us are part of that same tribe. and that other person they're not, right? It's really interesting.
So it's a collective ritual, right? And this is community, it's bonding that brings these people together, for especially for sports fans. Like this is why there is so much sports, stuff to buy, is because it is so naturally bonding and community building. It connects you to everything about that team that you see right and good, probably.
Yeah. So even if the scoreboard doesn't reflect that I wore the socks at the end of the game, right? But it wearing those socks connects me to the
Yeah,
past wins that I helped influence by wearing those socks.
there you
You
go.
know, if
There.
real or imagined. It makes me feel closer to the team, and it helps me
Mhm.
bond with those fans who get it, those really smart fans, right? So it's not just about the Wolves winning; it's about us winning together. Yeah,
You've actually participated in the process then.
I am part. And what's really interesting, Tim, is that I used to do this only at home games, and when I would
Mhm.
go, and I have become much more like I wear my socks now when they're playing on television and they're at an away game, and I am even more distant from this, and nobody else around to share my community. Like I'm not signaling to my kids that
Wow.
this is it, but there's something about the rituals, right? There's something about the ritual that helps reduce that stress. It creates that bond again.
Yeah.
It boosts that sense of, as you said, agency, right? That I have some. There's real psychological impacts of this.
So is the message that the next time someone finds themselves wearing the lucky jersey, or they've got the muffler around their neck, or they're wearing their cap inside out or sideways or something like that, there's no reason to feel stupid about that?
Well,
Because
you can
that's
still
just
feel stupid if
you.
it's it's for the other team.
But
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 if
there.
it's for our team, no, you shouldn't feel there's some psychological. There is psychological benefit for that, right?
Yeah.
And as irrational as it appears on the outside, there is some internal component that brings you some joy to this, some that sense of being part of this tribe, of this team, that this little part, even though rationally I know it doesn't impact the game, it connects me to it
Yeah.
in a different way. It makes me more of a fan. It makes that game more interesting. I will tell you, there have been many times I have a stocking cap, right? Timberwolves stocking cap, and I take it off. This is this idea of a rally cap, right? And it's the immediacy of that. So I get to the game, it's warm, I take that hat off, right? Fourth quarter comes around, we are not quite winning, or we're getting closer, and I will put that hat on. And particularly if they start scoring more points, I keep that hat on, even regardless of how hot I am. And if they start like not scoring, then I take the hat off, because the immediacy of that control of what I'm doing,
Uh,
it makes no sense, but there's an
it
aspect
feels
that
good.
feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
All right. So I'm sure many of our listeners might have their own weird fan rituals.
Yep.
Many of you hopefully maybe do, right? Would love to hear about those. So leave us a comment on what your fan ritual is. Join our group community, and you can talk about that. Maybe we'll post that as a group question next week or whenever that is.
Your
Um,
football team, your cricket team, your basketball team, your soccer team, whatever.
or when you go and do anything where it's like there's some ritualistic aspect to it that you think is condoning luck of some sort, right?
Yeah.
It's gambling, the blowing on the dice, the tapping, something. It's some OCD behaviors in some sense, right? There's something about that, right? But if that's there, so yeah, we just want people to give us what's your go-to game day ritual. Let us know, and then take us. Maybe wear your shirt and send a picture on social media to us. No.
And maybe this week, this crazy idea about feeling okay with your superstitions because it reduces your anxiety and sense of control might help you as you go out and find your groove.